here at Tropicana Field. The Marlins leading the Rays. This is a Web Wednesday Ask the Announcer segment, but in light of the news of our dear friend Don Zimmer passing away, Rays senior advisor, we lose tonight at age 83. You guys gave us some great questions, but they seem a little inconsequential in light of the news. So at this point, we'll just go forward with the last question of the night. And a couple people want to know about your guys' favorite memories or stories about Don Zimmer. Personally, I'll remember our poker games, the treasure trove he was for talking about the game of baseball. My favorite thing was that little gleam in his eye when he knew he was jabbing somebody and he was just kidding, and at the end of it he would just have that big smile and a gleam in his eye like, I got you. So guys, your thoughts or stories about Zim?
Yeah, he got all of us like that. He was so great, and my goodness, you know, there's so many baseball stories about him. As a kid, I had his baseball cards. And then you know, watched him as a player and a coach and a manager. And in the 80s, I was blessed to go to Chicago when he was the third base coach up there for Jim Fry and the Cubs, and then eventually the manager of that team that won the division in '89. And of all the great baseball stories that he could tell, the thing that struck me the most about Zim was his loyalty. And he was the third base coach to Zimmer. Here's McGee with a fly ball to right, one gone. And the Cubs, after winning in '84 and contending for part of '85, saw injuries and things fell apart. Eventually, Jim Fry was fired by Dallas Green, who was the general manager, and they called Fry in and said they're going to let him go, and he thanked Dallas for giving him the opportunity to manage the team. And almost immediately Zim marched upstairs and resigned as a third base coach because they had fired his childhood friend and former Cincinnatian Jim Fry, and he did it out of loyalty, and that's how he was. It was the loyalty ultimately that I think I'm going to remember the most about Don Zimmer, as well as the fun and the gleam in his eye. But it just struck me at how loyal he could be. He would stick up for people, he would encourage people. And if he had to resign a job because somebody fired his good friend, his manager, he didn't miss a beat to do that. And I think of all the things, that has impressed me the most about Don Zimmer.
Tough to beat that one. That is a great story, and I know that you've told that before, and you're right. It speaks to his loyalty. You know, my feelings on Don go more towards, you know, what Todd was saying. You know, I got the opportunity to be an assistant to Jim Hickey here for a couple of seasons, and Don, of course, was in the same role, you know, an advisor with the team, and we would be able, on the home games, during the home games, we would be able to, you know, to sit up in the coach's room and you know, watch the games together, and the stories that he would tell from his playing days, from his managing days, what Todd talked about, the fact that he would tweak you a little bit. He would manufacture an issue with me, and he would start working me over and getting me going a little bit, and then all of a sudden you'd see that mischievous grin on his face. And the thing about Don too, when he smiled big, his eyes would disappear, and that's when he knew that he got you, and that's when you knew that it was a joke. And he just such a pleasure to be around. So fortunate, the opportunity that I got to do that.
You know, I asked him one time, and the stories that he had were unbelievable. I asked him one time, one of my childhood thrills was getting Duke Snider to wave at me. When I was a kid, he was at this time near the end of his career with the Giants. He was playing right field in the old ballpark in St. Louis, which was Sportsman's Park. And for 4 innings, I had yelled, "Duke, Duke." And finally, he turned and waved. And so I was talking to Zim about that. And of course, he was a teammate of Duke Snider when they were with the Dodgers. And when they went to Los Angeles from Brooklyn. And he told me a great story about how he was somewhat responsible for Duke Snider hurting his arm. They were, during batting practice, they were out in the field at the Coliseum in Los Angeles, and they decided that they were going to try to throw a ball out of the Coliseum. And one attempt after another, one would try it, then the next one would try it, the next one, and he said, about the four, he says, you know, and he says, Duke had a good arm. He says, you know, he says, mine was about 6 rows from the top. He goes, Duke was going to throw it out. And he said, about the 4th or 5th time Duke tried to throw it out, he let go and he grabbed his arm and he hurt his arm. And Duke Snider said to Don Zimmer, he says, I hurt my arm. And Zim goes, I tell you what you do. You don't tell him that you hurt it. You go in, you pick up a bat, you take a swing in batting practice, and then you grab your arm and you go, oh, I hurt my arm while I was taking batting practice. I said, Zim, you're telling me that you told Duke Snider to lie? How could you tell anybody to lie? I've lost such faith in you now. So they both got into a little hot water with the Dodgers for doing that. I just thought it was just a wonderful story about Don Zimmer and Duke Snider and the great idea of trying to throw a ball out of the Coliseum in Los Angeles.